It is well known that China currently has a Boom 20 program, which is China's strategic bomber. However, when the Boom 20 is not in service, there are rumors, both on the Chinese internet and outside, that China has a new type of fighter jet. For example, as early as 2022, the Indian media Eurasia Times reported that the U.S. Defense Intelligence Agency confirmed that China is also developing a JHXX fighter and said it is more mysterious than even the Yeti. However, in terms of current military needs, the possibility of China developing a JHXX fighter is very small, so small that it almost does not exist. First of all, there is the problem of positioning. The full name of the JHXX is J-bomber, which is not strictly speaking a fighter. It is mainly equipped in the land or sea aviation. Land or sea aviation can rely on its speed to quickly break through the enemy's air defense system, and then on the ground or sea targets to strike. For example, China's JH-7 fighters are mainly used by land navigation and sea navigation. Among them, H-20 is the most equipped, with about 120 JH-7s out of the 200 in service, which are used by H-20. China's Naval Air Force can let the JH-7 mount Hawk 83 or Hawk 12 anti-ship missiles, and use the JH-7's relatively fast speed to break through the U.S. carrier fleet's anti-aircraft defense system, and then strike the warships in its fleet. JH-7's role is very important. After all, China is facing the main external military pressure from the U.S., and the U.S. suppression of China's main military force is the Navy. But the problem is that the JH-7 is not the only one that can be used. But the problem is that the JH-7's role is not unique in modern times, as modern multi-role fighters also have this capability, like China's J-16S, which can also mount Hawk 83 and Hawk 12 anti-ship missiles. The J-16 is also faster than the JH-7, reaching a maximum speed of Mach 2.2. compared to Mach 1.7 for the JH-7. When it comes to breaking through the enemy's air defense system by speed, it is obvious that J-16 has more advantages. The most crucial thing is that J-16, as a multi-purpose fighter, also has more functions than JH-7. J-16 is capable of anti-ship, ground attack, air combat, and can be modified to be an electronic warfare aircraft. The JH-7 has only anti-ground and anti-ship capabilities, and its air combat capability is not as good as that of the J-10C. It is obvious that no matter whether it is the ability of surprise defense or versatility, the fighter like J-16 is more advantageous compared to JH-7. In addition, China's 6th-generation aircraft may also have the same anti-ship and ground strike capabilities as the JH-7. At the end of 2024, when China's 6th-generation aircraft, J-36, made its maiden flight, it was found to be much larger than the J-20. Therefore, many people speculate that its maximum takeoff weight may reach more than 40 tons, or even 50 tons. Such a huge takeoff weight will greatly increase the bomb capacity of J-36. Originally, with the size of J-20, its built-in bomb bay does not have the ability to mount Hawk 83 and Hawk 12 anti-ship missiles. But with the J-36 size, this 6th-generation aircraft may have the ability to do so. So China's J-36, as a fighter, also has the ground, anti-ship capability of the JH-7. Since the fighter has such capability, there is no need to specialize in developing a J-bomber. Secondly, with the transformation of China's naval aviation, China has even less use for JH-7s. Currently, the Chinese Navy's range of activities is concentrated in the first and second island chain, basically at China's doorstep. Earlier, especially before 2010, when China's 055 and 052D destroyers were not yet in service, the Chinese Navy was basically sticking to the coastline. This situation has resulted in the Chinese naval aviation having only a small number of carrier-based aircraft formations, with the vast majority of naval aviation deployed on land to carry out anti-ship missions as land-based naval aviation. However, with the increase in the number of Chinese aircraft carriers and the transformation of the Chinese Navy into an ocean-going navy, the range of activities of the Chinese Navy is also expanding. In the future, the Chinese Navy's range of activities will be concentrated in the Indian Ocean, the Eastern Pacific Ocean, and even the Atlantic Ocean. When the Chinese Navy really becomes an ocean-going navy all the time, China will basically not need a fighter aircraft like the JH-7. For one thing, the Chinese Navy has become an ocean-going navy. which means that China has completed the enemy in thousands of miles away. Almost impossible to have other countries' naval forces can be close to China's coastline. In this context, China relies on the Dongfeng 26, the range of 4,000 kilometers above the large land-based anti-ship missiles will be able to support China's shore defense. Under normal circumstances, China needs to rely on the Navy to maintain defense. Secondly, the J-7 can't take off from an aircraft carrier. Although J-16 can't take off and land on an aircraft carrier, the Chinese Navy has J-15 fighters in its hands, and J-15 is equivalent to the naval version of J-16, which can also mount Eagle 83 and Eagle 12 to carry out anti-ship missions. Therefore, from the transformation of China's naval aviation, it can also be seen that China does not need new J-10 fighters in the future. Finally, as for the land aviation to carry out the ground strike mission, in addition to our above-mentioned J-16, can replace the J-7 to carry out the ground strike mission, there are two other weapons can replace the role of J-7 to a large extent. One is the armed helicopters, and the other is the missiles. The biggest disadvantage of helicopter gunships compared to J-7 is that they are slow and cannot rely on their speed to break through from the front of the enemy's defense line. But as China's other military forces improve, the current PLA will not let its air defenses survive against the vast majority of small countries. When the enemy loses its air defenses, there is no question of helicopters having trouble breaking through. At this time, the helicopter gunships can rely on the lower price, can form a larger air-to-ground strike fleet, has more powerful firepower than the J-7. If China does not completely pull out the enemy's air defense, then the rocket forces in the hands of various types of tactical missiles can also quickly strike the target. Currently, China's rocket forces in the hands of the Dongfeng 17 such hypersonic missiles, in addition to missiles such as the Longsword 10A, Dongfeng 15 series of missiles, in terms of quantity and performance are very considerable. Visible in the hands of the current Chinese, have too many means to replace the J-7 fighter, J-7 whether it is ground or anti-ship capabilities, in fact, in the current military system has no advantage. In this context, China is naturally unlikely to develop a new J-7 fighter.